let's talk about the future of game NFTs and why I'm so hopeful about them and the sort of things that I'm hoping will happen. I have fond memories of collector's editions and things like that, where you would purchase a game and you had the CDs and you had a map and you had all these little fun things that came with it, a book, an art book, soundtrack, etc. Something has happened while we've gone to the digital world where I no longer care about all those little extras. Sometimes I do, sometimes I'll buy the soundtrack, but generally speaking, I'll just have the game and then I download the game and then I play the game and that's it. We've lost something there. But in addition to that, we've also lost the ability to resell our games. So we don't really own anything, because if you buy something from Steam, it only works on Steam, and if Steam ever shuts down or bans your account or whatever, the game is effectively gone. GOG has solved a lot of those problems, Galaxy of Games, by having DRM free stuff. So you can always purchase your game, put it on a hard drive, and leave it there, and then in the future you come back to that hard drive, reinstall the game from that and play. But you know, I don't have CDs or DVDs anymore. I'm totally digital now because it's just too cumbersome to have all this stuff around. Yeah, I know. But either way, I want to get back to the idea of ownership of games. So the first thing that comes to mind is a decentralized game distribution network. And I think that can be done on the blockchain. Not yet, but in the future, wherein a developer uploads their game to the blockchain and it is encrypted on there, but it is a downloadable version. It is version 1.0, which has to be as close to perfect as possible, like we're talking Nintendo of America standards. And then anyone who purchases the game from that decentralized hub, that money goes to the wallet of the developer, and that person gets to download a copy, and because they've got the token that says that they own the game, they connect to their wallet and this game is yours, you download it, you install it, you play it, and it lives on that blockchain for the rest of eternity effectively, but until like the internet crashes due to a nuclear war or whatever. Now that means that the first versions of games will always be there. And the reason that I'm excited about that idea is because of what happens with these remasters and these reforges. Warcraft 3, for example, was effectively crippled, the original version, by Activision's Warcraft 3 Reforged. And as a result, people now have to turn to piracy, going online and finding old versions of Warcraft 3 in order to play the original game as intended with all of the features that it had. Though some of those are not supported anyways because of Activision's actions. When you have a decentralized sort of storage facility like this, you never have to worry about that again. As long as you have the token in your wallet, you can always go back to that blockchain and get that game again, because it's stored there for, again, eternity, effectively. In this way, blockchains become a decentralized archive of all software going forward forever. And I think that's extremely useful, because right now we have to rely on archivists and web pages and things to do these things for us. In this way, anything you create, and once it's on the blockchain, it's there forever. And it doesn't have to be repeated on the blockchain. People are worried about how much size these games will take up on the blockchain and things like that. It only has to be stored in once and then downloaded from there with decryption keys and so forth for however many people purchase it. Now, once you've purchased the game, you have it in your wallet, you can then sell that game to someone else, and then they can go and download it as well from the same blockchain. And because of the way that smart contracts can work, the developer can program in a return from those resales. And thus, a developer has a steady form of income for the rest of the lifespan of that game, far beyond what it would normally be, because normally these physical copies would end up at a GameStop where the developer gets absolutely nothing for the resales. And in this way, we can have a decentralized game distribution network that supports developers for all time. And that's something that I'm especially excited about, because that means that it incentivizes the developers to make really strong single player games again. Because the problem with single player games is that they don't generate income after they're sold. But with this, they can continue to return value not just to the person who purchased it, who can resell it perhaps at a potentially higher value than when they purchased it, but back to the developer, who gets a percentage of that sale every time it goes on into the future. I think that's a net benefit for everyone, because if you purchase a game, it's not just a game, it's an investment, and that investment can be returned to you depending upon how the developer sets up the sales of the game. They may limit, in the NFT world, it's common to limit the number of people who can purchase something. And they can choose to do that or not do that. And it may even be a limited time sale, and then they just rely on the resales after the fact. I don't know what the best model is, but the beauty of this sort of thing is that we can experiment and figure out which one is the best. So basically, I see it as a return to true ownership. You purchase something, you have it, it's in your wallet, it is still digital, but now it's something that you can resell or burn or whatever, just like you could with physical copies. And I think that's what we need if we are going to move forward in this digital world and eventually get to this metaverse that we're all being promised. And that turns the blockchain into a permanent storage and distribution point, which means that we never truly lose anything anymore. It's always there on the blockchain. And I don't know. I think it's good. Maybe I'm wrong. In fact, tell me I'm wrong. I want to know how wrong I am. So I watched Line Goes Up. And the problem with Line Goes Up is that it is the most dystopian, polemic version of what NFTs currently are. And it has no bearing on what NFTs could become. Because literally we're talking about code on a blockchain that can be turned into whatever we want. And the key is that it's decentralized, so we don't have to rely on a Steam or EA or whoever to hold these things for us anymore and maintain them. They are on the block. These games can be on the blockchain permanently, always downloadable, always ready to play again. And I think that's important. In addition to that, we have all of the various layers and promises of like items going from one game to another, one platform to another, one universe to another. That's kind of pie in the sky stuff to me, whereas this form of distribution of games, I think, is really the way that we need to be focused on.